Electric Cafe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today is day number 18 in my 30 days of January focused on electronic music, experimental, ambient music, and new age music from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Today's video is on Harold Budd's 1986 album called Lovely Thunder. This is a really strong, supported album from Harold. Right around this time, just a couple years before, he struck up a relationship with Simon Raymond and Robin Guthrie from Cocteau Twins, and just before this album, did the album Moon Over the Melodies, right? Melodies Over the Moon. I always forget what it's called. Uh, the Moon and the Melodies. Excuse me. So they did. Simon Raymond and Robin Guthrie did a few albums with Harold Budd, and Harold Budd we lost a couple years ago. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. He passed away in his mid 80s, and he's just one of the probably best, one of my most favorite piano players. In the past 40 or 50 years. Also Michael Honing from who did some really good music in the 70s and 80s, was a part of Tangerine Dream for a few years as well. He mixed this along with Simon Raymond. And so, it's definitely got a great support staff on this album. And, with Harold Budd's keyboard playing and moody songs, like this is an album that's always, and just Harold Budd in general has always been an artist that I really enjoy. And this is his first time on the channel, so I wanted to start with the first album that I ever bought of his, and that was Lovely Thunder. So there's 6 tracks on here, 3 on the first side, 4 on the first side, and 2 on the second side. The first song is called "The Gunfighter." It's a really nice and gentle intro. It's a bit ominous. It's deeper. It's kind of evolving, really, fairly slowly, but it's a great intro. I give it 3 stars, and it goes really well into the track number 2 called "Sand Shredder," which is one of my favorites on the album. It's almost like a breath of fresh air. It's kind of scenic. It's gentle. It's beautiful. It's a great balance of deepness and sort of like wonderment, and it just evolves over the 5.5 minute long song. It just kind of evolves really slowly, and it's just a beautiful song and really powerful, and maybe not powerful, but a little bit melancholy, a little bit poignant. Um, it's it's just got a really gentle feel. It's kind of like all that I look for in the ambient music, especially music, ambient music that's sort of new age related. In the 70s and 80s specifically. This is the type of ambient that I would like to find, and it's always been one of my favorite Harold Budd songs, and I give it 4 stars. Now, track 3 is called "Ice Flows in Eden." It's a shorter track. It's a little bit under 3.5 minutes. It unfortunately it kind of ruins the pace of the album. It's an okay song. I wouldn't say it's a good song. It's in between okay and good. It's got some good tones. It's kind of short. It just doesn't really go with the after the powerful first build up of the first 2 tracks. This track is kind of like a lounge mood. It just doesn't go with the album at all. It doesn't go with the previous songs. It doesn't go with the next songs. It doesn't go with the artwork. I just it doesn't sound like "Ice Flows in Eden." Doesn't sound like the track title. I just kind of confused by this track, and I think it's a big blemish on the record to the point where, like, it almost makes you want to hear the first 2 songs and then just flip to the other side and forget about track 4 too, because track 4 is my second least favorite track on there. So just these 2 tracks, and track number 4, the next track is Olancia Farewell. Doesn't necessarily, it's not a bad song. I gave it 2.5 stars. But it's just to play two amazing tracks that have a great build up, and then one track that doesn't fit, and then go into the next track, which is a good track, but it's not very good. I would say it's just kind of makes you want to, if you're going to get up to flip over the record. I mean, to change the track, you might as well just flip over the record because you're going to get up in 2 minutes on the next song because it's 2 minutes and 15 seconds on the next song. So it's I give Ice Flows and Eden a 1.5 stars, and then Orlantia Farewell 1.5, 2.5 stars. But just kind of a confusing pick, that track, and that's the third track specifically. And the fourth track kind of helps it kind of get back on track, but it's not like on the level of the other four tracks, in my opinion. So a little bit disappointing end to the first side. Now the second track, second side, the first track is called "Flowered Knife Shadows." It's a bit mysterious and eerie, but has some really nice layering, and underneath underneath has a lot of like warmer tones, which is nice. It does kind of sound like how the album artwork looks. I wish it sort of evolved itself a little bit more in some of the sound. It kind of leaves you wanting like a little bit more completion. But having said, it's still a nice balance of tension, beauty, intensity, relaxing. It's almost chamber music in a way. There is some tones in there that's oh, excuse me. I said yeah, wanting completion. Like I feel like um, this track doesn't really have like again, it sort of makes you feel like you want more, and maybe that sort of leads to the last track and it being so epic that it sort of is the ending, but I don't think they really go together. So that track seems a little bit unfinished in some ways as far as like the direction of the song, but overall the sounds on it and just the overall appeal of it, I do give it 3 stars. It just kind of feels like something's missing in the direction of the song. And then the last song is called Gypsy Violin. It's a little bit over 20 minutes long, so it's basically half the album, almost half the album. It's pretty awesome. It's a pretty awesome song. Um, this one is the one I was trying to say was almost chamber sounding like it's. There's some tones in here that sort of morph the feeling into a little bit more unusual or darker or just a little bit strange because some of the tones sort of morph in a unique way where it feels a little odd and maybe a little bit mysterious in a way, um, like you sort of get the idea that it's a darker and a a really a powerful track, and then when some of the sort of sounds morph into it kind of makes you kind of like this is doing something a little different. This is trying to be something kind of unique and weird. Maybe not weird, but it's almost hard to explain. But it becomes it's almost like you're grasping where it's going, and then you hear it sort of take a turn, and but then it gets back on track. So you're like, well, that's kind of weird. That's kind of strange. Like it almost gives it like a little bit more of a dramatic flow to it, and more little. You almost don't. You can't predict where it's going, and because it's so layered on top of that, and then the balance of violins and then electronic music on there and keyboards and stuff like that, it's just such a awesome song. It's just the ending, the last couple of minutes is just even gets better. It's just absolutely beautiful. I give it 4 stars as well. I really can't pick a favorite between Sand Treader and Gypsy Violin. They're almost, one's a good intro and is more ominous and or more wonderment and awe, and it's a shorter track. And then Gypsy Violin is 20 minutes, evolving and kind of a mix of chamber music and violins and keyboards and synthetic and I mean just probably a great example of both sides of 80s new age music. Whichever track of those you choose, I just really enjoy those few tracks. Um, as far as the overall stars of the album, my rating for the album, It's 18 stars divided by 6, which is a 3.00. If you take out that one where I rated 1.5 stars, it's actually closer to a 3.3. And I feel like because of the two 4-star tracks and how awesome they are, and then as well, another two of the remaining four tracks are also 3 stars. I feel like if I kind of subtracted that track, it would be rated a little bit higher. And so I went with a little bit closer to without that track in some ways, and sort of I probably, if that track was just an average compared to this album and it was like 2.5 or 3 stars, this would probably be in the really high 70s. But considering that track still that's in there, I gave it a 74 out of 100. It's right in the middle of a very good album. It's a strong new age album. I think if you're into piano music, chamber music, violins, um, 80s new age music, this is a great pickup. Especially since Michael Honing has evolved, and a couple of the two guys from Cocteau Twins as well. Just a really soothing and also a strong balance of real instruments and some electronic instruments. I feel like it's a nice balance. And yeah, I mean that's my overall thoughts on the album. But yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of Harold Budd's music, and I figure if I start reviewing his albums, I would start with an example of reviewing his first album. And yeah, give it a 74 out of 100. It's a very good album for sure. Just curious if you have any thoughts on this record, or if you've heard it, or if you haven't heard it, can I suggest check out the track called Sand Treader and also Gypsy Violin. Play them really loud. See what you think. I'd be curious to know your thoughts on them. All right. Thanks so much.
When we come